All right, troops, welcome to the Anvil Power Hour. Hello, Chris. It's almost like I just saw you yesterday when we were doing this. And I'm going to ask you how your day's been since it was fucking yesterday we were doing
I
this.
know, not a week a day.
Yeah,
It's been good. It's been good. I mean, Scotland beating England at the rugby is always going to put a smile on anybody's face.
that's all that matters.
Of course it is. Of course it is.
Yeah, we bet the English. Fuck 'em.
Exactly. Good game. Very good game. Good to bounce
Yeah,
back
like
after
I
last
caught
week's
some of
defeat.
it. Yeah, I caught some of it. It's a nice turnaround.
It is.
um, Quite surprising. And I do think that maybe gives us like a beacon of a hope, of a dream of potentially being in it for the Six Nations.
Yeah, maybe France. France are playing Wales
Yeah,
right now. France are
yeah,
a
and
good
if
side. We have
yeah,
France
and
next weekend.
mhm. And if everything goes really well for Wales, let's all support Wales today. Because if Wales does really well, then we might be in for the flicker of a dream of a
That's
chance.
But it's funny you mentioned that. If Wales win today, that's everybody had one defeat, which
Yeah,
is
exactly.
pretty much
Because
unheard of. You normally see a team running away
yeah,
with a couple of
yeah,
wins
exactly.
to start with.
So, and it's one of those things. So it's why this year's Six Nations is actually really interesting, and I loathe the other half of me that's Irish loathes the fact that 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 Ireland is not doing well at all this year.
Um,
They are
I know.
not doing well at all. So F's in chat for the Ireland team. I think they lost a lot of their good players last year, so I think that there's a lot of fresh players on their team, and
Yeah, and
it's kind of
aye.
telling right now.
It is a bit. They were lucky yesterday. Italy are
Yeah.
getting better, which is nice to see.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I
aye.
remember my first ever rugby game was Scotland versus Italy.
What was
So
it?
like, and yeah, so that was like a long time ago, but like I remember seeing how far the Italy teams came on since back then and stuff like that.
Hmm.
It's really impressive to see their progress, which is pretty cool.
Totally
Yeah,
agree.
so other than that, you've done one whole day of training since we talked last yesterday.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's it.
Uh,
Posterior chain day, so some nice heavy RDLs, deadlifts, bit of incline bench, some accessory workout. It was nice. It was a good
Yeah, but
session.
we can talk about and celebrate the fact that you are 92.1 kilos today and just a ball hair
Yes,
off of breaking into 91s and into
that's it.
those last 2 kilos of weight loss to go,
Yep.
which for anyone that's listening is basically last how we explained it in last week's video is what we've done with Chris.
Hmm.
Pretty much word for word.
So watch
So
last week's video
yeah.
and learn something.
Yeah, and keep an eye out on social media this week because I'm actually going to be putting up a talk through of Chris's entire weight loss in a post, like where he started, his middle point, where he is currently, if he remembers to send me the check-in photos, which he should be sending every week, but he hasn't fucking sent them.
I
Yeah,
forget, I'm a busy man.
yeah. So but we're going to be talking through the processes rather than just showing before and after photos because any fucking mug or someone with AI can do that. We're going to be explaining the processes of how we got there. We're going to stick a middle photo in there as well because I think that's more beneficial to the general audience and stuff like that.
Yep.
Yeah, so I, since yesterday, had a lovely evening with the missus. We went out for dinner. She
Hmm.
argued a lot. It was funny as fuck.
Was
They
that
were
because
going
she
to
was about 6 cocktails deep or
Yeah,
just
well, in
aye.
fairness, she was only 3 cocktails deep, but it nothing to do with that. So basically, for her birthday, we got a voucher for TGI Fridays,
Nice.
and we went to use it. But little to little to my knowledge, TGI Fridays has been really recently bought over by a different company who are
Interesting.
trying their best to get rid of all these vouchers that
Hmm.
TGI Friday used to sell and prevent them being used on certain days like important bank holidays and for some reason Valentine's Day. It's not a fucking bank holiday, just some way to spend a lot of fucking money on cards and chocolate and roses. Fuck off. So we got there and she was like, "No, we're allowed to come in today." And the waitress was like, "No, you're not." And she just looked at it and went, "Doesn't say anywhere in the terms and conditions," because we printed it off. And by
Hmm.
thank fucking God we had it printed off because the people really couldn't argue with us. But the meal was really nice. And the waiter that dealt with our table, he was fucking top notch. Like,
Good.
hats off to that man.
Aye.
Other than that, I have done a load of shift work, one-to-one work today, and now we are here. So, with our days being discussed, let's move into our first section: how to be less shit at log. Okay, troops, we are back. Let's talk about how being less shit at log. So, long story short, I think if you log is one of those ones you have to be good at. You can't not be good at. You
Agreed.
have to have a basic grasp of log because I will guarantee you, I think 5 out of 7 competitions have log in it in some description.
Hmm.
And the two the two okay, let's say 4 out of 7 competitions have log or some description in it. The other 2 out of 7 is Axel dumbbell, and then that last one is probably circus or monster dumbbell. So
Yep.
when coming to frequency, this is probably one of the biggest things you'll tend to see in competitions. And why? Because log is probably the staple lift. I think it's more staple than stones in strongman. Like when you think of strongman, yeah, a lot of people think of stones, but when you
Hmm.
compete in strongman, everyone thinks of log because I
Log's
think
just cool. It's
it's
just
by
cool.
far the most popular thing in my
Aye.
opinion. Like I don't think there's anything that beats log. Like only people like Jamie don't like log,
He's
and I'll
fucking
convert him.
weird. He's
Yeah,
weird.
I'll convert him. Don't worry, we're working on it. His log's getting better than his axle, so soon you'll have to say that
I
he
know.
likes log more because he has no choice because he's better at it.
That's
Um,
that's true.
yeah, but yeah, you're here to find out how to get better at log, and we are going to share some secrets with you. So let's start with Chris. Chris, what's your opinion on log, and what do you like to do to try and get stronger with log?
I love log. For me, I sound like the guy from fucking Anchorman. I love lamp. I love log. Log's the best overhead. Full stop. There's no question about it. It's the one that I think log is the one that you get the most benefit from in the press. Um, you see Axel, people failing the belt, failing the clean, whatever, right? With log, I've got a saying with log, and you'll see me muttering this in a lot of my videos, comp, training, whatever. Efficient, clean, easy press, right? For me, the clean was always the part I struggled with.
Yeah,
And you know that from day one working with you. It was
yeah,
always the clean. We spent a lot of time working on that. Once the clean got nailed and it became efficient, the press was the easy part. Now, how did we do that?
how
A
did we do
lot,
that?
a lot of heavy log cleans,
Yeah.
a lot of belt squats, and a lot of front
Mhm.
squats.
Yeah, and that's it. Like, I think you hit the nail right on the head. So, on this point, I'm going to make something plainly clear, and I think this is something you all need to hear. Log is not shoulder pressing. Do not treat log like shoulder pressing, because if you treat log like shoulder pressing, it's why you're constantly missing your reps. And why? Because log is a girthy, big fat bitch.
Spot
It
on.
is not a bar. It does not move in the same plane as a bar. If you want to take a crossover, log is more like some kind of standing incline press
Hmm.
because you're having to arch the back and set up the rack position, which is not the same a as a shoulder press. With a shoulder press, a thin bar in your hand where you can maintain control, even an axle, the elbows are underneath rather than with log, the elbows are almost nearly sitting forward at about 45-degree angle. It's not directly underneath the log, because if it's directly underneath the log, and if you're noticing this, it'll be the log will want to roll back down your chest. Your
Hmm.
elbows are high to keep the log locked into the rack position. And because of that, it's a completely different position to actually press from in the grand scheme of things. So
Yep.
the first big mistake that everyone's making is they treat their log like a shoulder press when they shouldn't. Log is like equipped bench press. So ask any of the guys who do equipped powerlifting. they will tell you that benching on the shirt is nothing like bench pressing. And that is kind of like log in the exact same way, is that it looks the same, aka the weight is going above your head. It
Hmm.
is not the same movement. And yeah, so that's the first bit. The next bit that people most likely fail on is the clean. And if you're going to fail a rep, it's probably because the clean looks like dog shit.
Yep.
And there is a problem that we need to address. And for a lot of people, it's because the clean takes up so much energy.
Hmm.
And that's where the problem lies in it because you do not practice your cleans enough. I've seen plenty of people, they do one rep up to the chest, they do their 5 reps above the head, and they're like, well, I've done 5 sets of log clean and press. Or like 5 sets of 5 reps log clean and press. No, you've done 5 press and 1 clean. You've not
Yep.
done log clean and press. You've done log press. And if you are not good at cleans, you are going to suck at pressing. Because what generally happens in the clean phase is when you start to struggle, you use your biceps and arms to drag the weight into the rack position, and you've lost all your hip power. That is just basically frying your arms before you got to try and put the weight above your head. It's not a
And why
fun
is
place to be.
that? And why is that? It's a lack of triple extension. You see
It's
that
a
quite a
lack
lot.
of power. It's a lack of
Yep.
power and a lack of squat. And it's a lack of quad strength.
Hmm.
So if you want to know, have a reason to squat, and we talked about this a few episodes ago, why lifters should squat. This is another reason why you should be able to squat. You should have squats in your programming because squats will make you better pressers. You should have jumps in your programming because jumping will make you a better presser. There's a lot of things that benefit that you don't talk about, and we'll talk about it as we get into this because I am intending to keep this roughly about 15-20 minutes because I want this to be hard hitting and valuable. So, we've talked about the first part, how you treat it like an incorrect movement. We've talked about how the clean is the next bit. Now we're getting onto the log itself. So, how can this go wrong? It can go wrong in a couple of different ways. The biggest, most common one I see right now is the jump back issue. So, after the first two, the next most common way I see people fail is because when they try and press, as they jump to engage up, they hop back half a step. Now, pay attention, you see this quite often. What you're doing now is you've now put yourself behind the center of gravity of the log. So when
Hmm.
you've taken a step back, as that log goes up, rather than it being coming up like this, what you've done is you've jumped up and you've came back. So now the log is in front of you, which is then compromising your position. So what I always recommend in this is either try and jump forward into the log or practice until you've got yourself staying nice and flat. So what you do, put a little bit of tape where your heels, so rack up in the log, get your training buddy to put a bit of tape on the ground where your heels are, and then what you're looking for is trying to press to make sure your heels don't
Hmm.
clip over that piece of tape. It's a simple drill and it's a really effective drill as well, but it does help. And something I do also think helps in this point is box jumps. Working plyometrically, working on your like explosive power is where we go here. Rather that whether that's like box jumps, weighted box jumps, if you're quite confident, can be extremely beneficial. Like deep squats into jumps, again, very beneficial. Um, but yeah, like, and then we move on to just squat exercises, belt squats, front squats, safety bar squats, like lots of squats, just fucking squat, get better, just squat. Squats fix everything. Like squats will fix everything in your pressing motor just by having bigger, stronger legs. And that plays a huge factor in it. But when we're doing this kind of stuff, we want to make sure that you are getting better and working on reps and being more efficient. Efficiency is king, and the more you can practice these little things, a lot of stuff's just repetition work. Just keep on repeating yourself and watching it and be critical. So when it comes to recording lifts, don't just record from the front because that's the best Instagram angle. Record from the side, record especially with log, recording from a 90-degree side-on angle can be
Hmm.
super beneficial. Can we, because we can see where things are going wrong. We can see if the elbows are dipped down low, or if you're jumping back, or your chest isn't upright and tight enough, and you go from there. So after that, we're moving on to the press bit. So where do people fail mostly on the press? Is it off the chest? Not particularly. It tends to be where the elbows transition through. And that is just either a lack of confidence and pushing power, or some weak triceps. Because weak triceps are a big one. And you know why one thing that'll fix that? You didn't like most people don't like doing, but are super beneficial, dips. Lots and lots of dips. I think your biggest jumps in log came when we introduced dips into your program.
Dips and the single arm cross body
Yeah.
extensions.
So
Both of them
why?
combined together.
Yeah. So dips are just a great builder of upper body. They're just a great builder of upper body. They become incredibly beneficial. And then the crossbody tricep extension stuff was designed because we want to make sure that one, we develop muscle tissue, but we work out any imbalances. And imbalances in arms is a very common thing. You will see it. You'll probably seen it yourself if you're watching this. Watch your left and you see guys, they lock out one arm and the other arm's slightly bent and then they're fighting it through. It's just an imbalance in tricep strength,
Hmm.
which then needs to be worked on. So dips, dips, dips. And if you can't do full dips, do what I do. So in my training, I do negative dips. I jump up and I try and control myself down because that's still developing the strength you need in the arms and stuff like that.
Yep.
Or assisted dips if you've got access to a dip machine that can offload your body weight. Do that. Like dips are good. They're really good for shoulder health. They're fantastic for shoulder health. And if you have really tight shoulders, even just like putting yourself in that dip position and relaxing the knees will give you a really nice front of head shoulder relaxation, and then go from there. So the final place people fail after that is in the lockout because they cannot stay stable. They cannot stay stable overhead, and that is more than commonly a rear delt issue. Or shitty shoes. I'll explain shitty shoes in 2 seconds. But if you are struggling with your rear delts and they're not developed enough to help you hold the weight above your head, you're going to probably lose balance very quickly. You want that weight locking out above your head, and you want everything nice and locked in. Where people fail is when they lock out above their head, they don't retain tension in their arms. They lock out and then they stop, and then they like, right, cool, we're done. No, you want to lock out and squeeze everything, because the more you can
Hmm.
squeeze everything, you want every single muscle group sitting on top of each other. Your rear delts are probably one thing that tends to be overlooked in your training because one, we're not bodybuilders. We don't tend to like to have nice rounded caps. But two, and more prominently, a bigger issue is that it tends to be it's such a small exercise that's overlooked because it's not as flashy as the big exercises.
Hmm.
But how can we build this? How can we build a real delt actually specifically? Could do things like overhead walks with weight, or one I love. So with dumbbells, barbells, or the log, just walk overhead walks with the weight above your head. Can do stable, like we can do like long pauses in the lockout on your reps. So like you're doing a log clean and press, and then the lockout at the top will be 3 seconds long to make sure you can stabilize it. And then you've got simple things like rear delt flies, face pulls, all that not common thing. Like face pulls, my clients are sick to death of them because they get probably about 150 in every working program. But very
It
rarely do
works.
my yeah, very rarely do my clients, once the weight's locked out, is there too much stability issues, I tend to find. And
Hmm.
more importantly, we've had no dislocated shoulders. That's also a reason why you want to be making sure your rear delt is being trained, because when your front delt's overdeveloped and your rear delt's underdeveloped, there's a big risk of shoulder dislocation, and that's one of the primary reasons it could potentially go wrong. So we want to make sure that shoulder is fully developed to help make sure that we can stabilize a shoulder completely. So that is your areas from the ground to the lockout where things are most likely to fail. So anything else you'd like to add on that on anything in
Yeah,
that area.
just one thing for me is that I like to break the log down into three stages when I'm
Mhm,
doing it, regardless of weight. Now, for me, it's the pick up, the deadlift part, then it's the lap, then it's the clean, then it's the press. So
press,
four
yeah.
four sections. And when I'm in training, I tend to take a couple of seconds. So I'll pick it up, hold for a couple of seconds, on the lap for a couple of seconds, because that's drilling my brain into each process.
Hmm.
It's helping me build cues that are going to work
Yeah.
for me, where to take breaths, where I feel comfortable, where I don't feel comfortable, where it's going to show any weaknesses or that. And I think one thing, and I don't know if you agree with this, that one thing I see when people log press is as soon as they pick up, they're not standing up straight, the log goes straight onto the lap in a
Yeah.
squatted position.
Hmm.
Now, for me, when I do that, as soon as I clean that and it's in the rack position, that's the first time I'm feeling the true weight of that log,
Yeah.
right? And that's when I know in my head, I don't have this if
Hmm.
it's heavy. Whereas if I stand right up in the deadlift, my body's getting acclimatized to the weight. It's going, right, this is heavy. I
Hmm.
know what's going on here. So it makes the clean and the press feel okay.
Yeah. And I totally agree with that. There is like, we will talk about sort of like big lifts later on that I think are beneficial. But yeah, that's a very common thing I tend to see is people rush the rep,
Hmm.
and they rush the rep by trying to almost like get it to the chest as quickly as possible to try and save energy.
Yep.
But I think that that can be quite dangerous. Now, for bigger guys or people whose quads fatigue easier, I would try and avoid the pause at the base because that can be quite energy consuming on the quads when you're sitting in the squat with the weight
Yep.
on your thigh. So, but I definitely think stand up upright. So how I do my log is I stand up upright, I take a breath, I
Hmm.
then squat down and clean up, and then I take a breath there, and then I press above my head.
That's interesting. There's slight
Uh-huh.
slight difference here. I can't take a breath when the log's in the rack position. My last breath comes when it's on the lap.
Yeah. So when it's on my chest, I don't take a full breath. So there is in training, I tend to refer to this as gut breathing and chest breathing. So gut breathing
Hmm.
is when you can take a full breath and you can fill your entire diaphragm. Unlikely to be able to do in your chest or when the log's sitting on your chest. So what you do is chest breathing. Chest breathing is a half breath through your nose. We've done this drill before where you
Hmm.
do a half breath through your nose and the rest through your mouth.
Yep.
We've done this in training. However, what I do in this situation is I just fill the chest. I don't aim to fill the rest of the diaphragm. So
Hmm.
I've got some oxygen in there. Also gives me a second or two to rebalance to make sure I'm comfortable with where I am and stuff like that. And
Yep.
then get ready for pressing. But yeah, loads of people do things different ways. Like, and then there's the people who don't squat at all. Like, if you're incredibly hip dominant, you might favor a partial squat with more of a kettlebell swing style glute squeeze to
Hmm.
pop the weight up. Um, I'm fairly sure that's how Diane does her cleans, is and is with a more of a hip swing. But if that
Yeah.
suits you, that suits you. Like there's plenty like the beautiful thing about strongman is there's no one way of doing things. You can approach things different ways. So if you really struggle with the squat, try looking up the kettlebell swing variant. And I'm sure I have a video of this on my YouTube channel if you want to go and see it. But we're getting close to the 20 minutes and I want to keep this on track. So what I'm going to do now is wait to list off all the exercises that I think are benefit log. And we're going to start with the actual specific log ones and we're going to work backwards. So one thing that's super beneficial is tempo log. And this is kind of what Chris does in his own way, in his log, is where you stop at different phases of the movement
Hmm.
and take a second or two. So you've got like, right, you're going to stop at the lockout for a second, you're going to stop in the squat a second, go stop in the chest for a second, and then you're going to potentially stop overhead for a second. These are also pause reps. Like these are just different pauses in your movement patterns. And if you suck at one area, stick a pause in there. So for example, if you're struggling with the push press phase of it, pause on the rack. So up into the rack position, half squat to get ready to do your pause press, pause there for a couple of seconds, drive up. If you struggle with lockout and stabilization after lockout, full rep on the top end, lockout, pause there for a couple of seconds before lowering. So your pause reps and your tempo work is probably key. After that, log cleans. Fucking thousands of log cleans because you've already done thousands of overhead reps in either incline press or shoulder press. You now need to do the thousands of reps to make sure that your clean catches up with your overhead press. Next thing you want to be doing is Viper press. And Viper press is a more skill driven exercise, but the reason why I find it super beneficial is it'll help condition you. Like when you suck at conditioning or holding out for the 60 seconds, try doing 30 seconds worth of Viper press. It'll make you fit, it'll make you strong. It'll also make you switch off because you can think when you Viper press. You tend to be all or nothing in a Viper press. And that
Yeah.
sort of ability to switch off can become very, very useful in big reps because the biggest failure we tend to see is in the brain rather than the body.
Hmm.
So those are most of the log ones. I'm sure there's more that but I can't think. Oh, incline log press. Set up your rack very close to, set up your bench very close to what you look like standing in a log press. And this is why we get side on videos. And then just log press, pin press, like out the rack press, all these kind of things can be super
Hmm.
beneficial because for the building static strength. If you're in a commercial gym, close grip incline press is a go-to one, and hammer grip press. And when you're doing your hammer grip shoulder press with dumbbells, rather than bringing them straight down, bring them down at an angle so your elbow sitting slightly forward so it replicates where the log sits. So the log will sit in that position, generally speaking. So you bring your dumbbells down to touch like that, and then you press up rather than bringing them straight down and up. It's a little bit of a carryover to log. I find actually quite beneficial for actually practicing the movement pattern because dumbbells tend to be generally a similar size to what logs are. So it gives you a kind of not the exact same width, but close enough of a width to give you a little bit of practice at
Yeah.
kind of working in that pressing position. After that, stabilization of shoulders, lateral raises, rear delt flies, dips, rows, squats, like everything can help it, but very much definitely work a lot on incline pressing as a general standpoint. Now, if you are struggling with or you're learning to do things like split jerk, rather than trying to just simply go straight and split jerk, a little trick I learned, and it's really beneficial, is put one foot forward and one back in the press. So you start in a racer stance position and press, and then what you do is you dip down, and as you press up, you drop forward, bring that foot forward and drop it into the rack, into the split jerk position. And that can be a very efficient way to actually press overhead because some people do actually prefer a slightly split stance on pressing because it makes them feel more comfortable. So practice like practice and experiment. So, and a split stance could actually be incredibly beneficial. And it might be easy for you to adapt to a split stance with a dropping foot rather than trying to work in like a split jerk or something. So, anything else you'd like to add? I know I've waffled a lot there at the end.
The one thing, just one thing, just when the log's in the rack position, right?
Uh-huh.
A lot of things I see is when people dip, they come
They,
forward like
yeah, they
that,
drop their
right?
chest. Mhm,
Now, I've got two cues for this. One of them's
mhm.
PC, one of them's no PC, right?
Let's go for the
The,
non-PC one because fuck it, we're not getting monetized anytime soon anyway.
the non-PC one is you've got a wall in front of you, a wall behind you. The only
Mhm,
way you're going to get down is by dipping straight,
mhm.
right? That's the only way you're going to do it. Imagine there's a wall behind you and a wall in front of you, and you've got to dip between that. And if
Okay,
you think of that, the non-PC one is you're trying to teabag somebody.
that work, yeah. I would go with this one in trying to dodge a speeding ticket.
Yeah.
Stick your chebs out. And that's it, yeah. But Chris got a very valid point. A lot of time when you go to log, you'll collapse down to try and explode up. Try
Yeah.
not to do that. Keep the chest up, keep the chest out, dodge a speeding ticket, and explode up. Get those
Hmm.
boobies right in his face. Yeah, but
And that's
okay.
us cancelled, folks.
Yeah, yeah, and that's it. Like this will probably be the last episode. I won't be because I can't be arsed. And the whole point this is to get for you to get to know us. So at that point, we'll take our 4 second break, and then we're going to be going into the coaching section. And the coaching section this week is a follow on from last week's one, which is the getting healthy phase that I mentioned quite a lot. So we'll catch you in 4 seconds. All right, back into it. Coaching section, the get healthy phase, the phase that you do not do. And it's a phase that honestly is why you fuck up so much time in nutrition and the nutrition side of things because you do not actually get healthy first. We just jump into a goal. We're so gun ho fixed on getting ourselves down the road that we actually miss the most important bit because most of us are not in a position where we're ready to diet or gain weight immediately when we're training because we're not healthy enough. We don't have good food habits. We don't have good control over calories. We don't have good understanding of calories. We don't have good control over our water. Our stress is all over the shop. Our steps are more up and down than fucking a hers knickers. Um, and yeah, our sleep is dog toffee. Like you still sleep like you're a 13-year-old boy who's just found the fucking Euro channels. You're up past midnight, my friend. You're up past midnight and you're doing too much in-bed exercise.
It's good
Uh,
you young folk listen to this will not have a clue what
yeah,
you're on
yeah,
about.
exactly. Yeah, those are from the good old days where we should watch things on television. When you'd get your free 15 minutes at like 1 o'clock in the morning, just after the wrestling. Yeah, so, but no, these are the things that we're missing. And the biggest problem for a lot of people is you never tackle this stuff until you get into it. So, for example, and I've seen this a lot of times, I want to lose weight for a holiday. Awesome. That's a perfectly acceptable goal. Don't care what anyone says. And then where we go from here is we go, okay, like let's look at it. And then the coach gives out 10,000 steps a day, 1,500 calories, 60 minutes of cardio. Because the holiday's 8 weeks away. And then the client fucks it after 2 3 weeks because they physically can't handle the load because because they're probably right now probably eating 3 takeaways a week, 12 like 1,500 like 2,000 calories a day, and their steps are like a few hundred like a few thousand steps a day. Their sleep's terrible and they're already stressed. So what I usually do when I'm working with clients is before we break into a dieting phase, is we try and do what's known as a get healthy phase, aka a priming phase. This is the actual name for it, is priming. You prime for diets and you prime for bulks, and it's super important to complete a priming phase because if you can complete a priming phase, you will be in the best possible position to achieve your goals. So,
Yep.
how do we do a priming phase? Very simple. We're going to talk through each phase. So, priming phase, part number one, we learn how to track weight. We learn about fluctuations. We start developing data for our weight, our potential weight loss or weight gain. So we weigh ourselves each and every single day, and we see what's happening. Especially for ladies, this can be incredibly important because you've got to take into things like your period and your cycle, your hormone cycle. These do play factors. So our get healthy phase actually takes time to learn what these things are and how they affect you, and more importantly, is how they affect your weight and stuff like that. Because a lot of the stuff we're talking about right now is going to be based around weight-based stuff, but it's also just about general health. So, is your mood nice and high when you're at certain points of your cycle? Is it extremely low? We've got to learn and understand these things because these are things you have to take into equation. Guys, if we're going through stressful weeks at work, do we have 1 week every month where stress goes through the roof because different things are needed, or is there a time where the kids are more demanding than others and stuff like that? So we have to learn these things, learn how our weight fluctuates on a day-to-day basis. Next thing we work on is actually trying to get our calories locked in. And the goal with calories is simple. During the priming phase, this total goal of calories is try and eat as many calories as physically possible while not increasing weight, while maintaining weight. So, what I mean by this is, say you sit naturally between 93. Oh, let's use Chris's numbers because they're right in front of me right now. So let's say you sit naturally between 90, 92, and 93. It's quite a big range, but it's kind of a main thing. So let's say throughout the week you sit sort of like 92.6 is an average. And what we do every couple of weeks, usually every 2 to 3 weeks, we may increase calories by 200 calories, and then we monitor, and then we go from there. What we're looking for is trying to make sure that 92.6 stays the average on the scales. We keep on pushing calories as high as we physically can. Why do we do this? Because by doing this, if you start a dieting phase, congratulations, we have more calories to play with cutting you off. Because your body's used to a bigger calorie intake, your body will respond better to weight cuts. And rather than needing to potentially cut you down to 1,500 calories, 12, 10, like 1,900, and yes, you can go that low. There is no such thing as starvation mode. It's not really real, not in the way that you think it is. We tend to find that I'd rather have you on 2,500 calories on a maintenance and then start you off at 2,000 calories, because you know what that means? That gives us another 1,000 calories to potentially play with before we're getting into areas where you're really struggling and stuff like that. The next thing in this area we want to work on is get your steps sorted out. So, what we do here is we need to standardize steps, because if you're in work, you probably do a reasonable amount of steps. Most people do, unless you're a desk job. So, or if you work from home, which in my opinion is one of the most dangerous things to people's health that's ever happened. Because the amount of people who work from home who just do not leave the house is can be horrific at times. So,
Hmm.
how we approach this, we record our steps every single day, and then we work out of an average. So, say you're doing roughly 5,000 steps during. This is how I tend to find it with new start clients. They do 5,000 steps during the week, and they do 2 to 3,000 steps on the weekend. So, what we need to do first is we need to standardize those steps. So we standardize those steps by going, right, every single day I want to hit 5,000 steps. We're not going to increase them or anything yet, because there's no point giving you 10,000 steps if you're doing 3,000 at the weekend, because then you've got to find another seven. And for someone who's just entering a dieting phase, that's far too many. So what we do instead is during the get healthy phase is we standardize at your minimum amount. So if you're doing 5,000 steps throughout the week, we try and make sure you're doing 5,000 steps at the weekend, and then we make sure that your weight's maintaining itself. And again, this is all interlinked. So we're doing all this kind of stuff. We find we're getting ourselves healthy, 5,000 steps minimum. If that's it, or if you're on 6,000 steps, we try and bring you up to 6,000 steps. Wherever you hit during the week, we aim to hit on the weekends to standardize it. And then once we've got that standardized, you're good to go. And then we can plan how to increase your steps. Simply throwing 10,000 steps in on people is can be sort of dangerous in dieting phases, because if they are only doing 5,000 steps, an extra 5,000 steps can be very demanding. So what I like to do in this sort of stuff is try and increase steps by roughly 1,000 steps every 2 weeks, because I find that is much easier for people to manage. Or 500 steps every 2 weeks if their numbers are low. What you do here is 1 week you hit it, second week you maintain, third week you increase. And that's how it works until we get you to roughly about 5 to 7,000 steps is where I like most clients to be in their general healthy phase. If we can get them up to sort of 8, it's perfect, but 5 to 7 is acceptable. So once we've got this done, we're going to be tracking water next. And most of us are dehydrated to fuck. As a general rule of thumb, we're mega dehydrated. So what we want to be doing is actually working out how much water we need to be taking. For the average person, I like to see roughly between 2.5 and 3.5 liters a day. If you're training, close to 3.5. If you're not training, 2, 2.75 to 3 liters a day on average. Why we're doing this is we get this done now because then if I have to increase your water while you're training, that's another thing you have to think about, and that could be too much. All this sort of stuff needs to be done in advance, so it's all in your diary. It's all part of your normal daily activity because we're going to be doing a lot of stuff that you're not used to. Next step, training. But Craig, I already train. Aye, you do. But do you log your training? Do you know what you're doing every day? Do you track it? Do you have goal targets? Or do you just go in and do whatever you want? We need to get you actually tracking numbers because those numbers are going to be important to us because we want to see you getting stronger. And if you're not tracking things, you cannot tell you objectively if you're getting stronger. Whereas if you are tracking stuff, it's easy to tell if you're getting stronger. If you've done 10 reps at 200 kilos and RDLs one week, and next week you do 12 reps, you're getting stronger. But if you're not tracking things, how are you supposed to know that? Most people get disheartened because they do not bother tracking. And they track their big lifts because they're the important ones and they don't track the little ones. The little ones are just as important because those are the little goals that push you through on a week by week basis. Right, after that, we're working on stress. And stress is the key one that I think is the reason why most people fail because they're already stressed and then the ad was essentially another stressor into their lives. What we're doing about this is trying to manage stress where we can cut it out, where we can ditch it, where we can make up things to help with us. For example, for me, it's painting. Most people know you can see it in the background. I like Warhammer. My bank balance does not like Warhammer. But what it allows me to do is it gives me a couple of hours every night where I can paint and I can relax and I can keep my hands busy and I can actually recharge my brain and I feel better. So having some form of hobby or something to help reduce stress is incredibly important. At this point, I'm going to put a break in and ask if Chris has anything they wants to add on these first topics because we've gone through a few and we don't really have many more to talk about. But the last one I think is the most important one, and it's going to be deserve a little bit of chat because it's one that we worked with Chris a lot on. So, anything you want to add so far?
Yeah, so the bit about the fluctuation in scales, right?
Yes.
And water intake for me goes hand in hand because I know I, you can see from my sheets I average 4 liters, right?
Yeah.
If I don't hit that, let's say I'm doing it maybe 2.5, that's when I notice the scales will start creeping up.
Hmm.
And I need to be consistent with my water intake. If it drops low, my body turns into a sponge essentially, and it tries to
Yeah.
cling on to every bit of.
Water that's available.
Aye,
Mhm.
exactly. And that
Yeah.
is when I notice the scales creeping up. So
Yeah.
if you do have a water target, try and keep consistent with
Yeah.
it.
It's probably one of the more important. Like we need to learn how to maintain regularity across macros and
Yep.
water,
hmm
because if you don't do these, this is why a lot of people's weight spikes up and down.
hmm
Chris's weight goes down every single like roughly on average 0.1 kilo a day right now in his dietary phase. But I can tell you right now that as a general average, he is around about 225 grams of protein. His carbs generally swing in roughly around about, um, roughly tend to swing around on training days around about 500. On non-training days, they swing around about 275. On training days, our fat levels are roughly around 100 grams, and on non-training days, they're around about 90. Nearly every single day, it's within a couple of grams.
hmm
Whereas the big sore spikes is where we tend to see issues with water retention stuff come on. So
Exactly
trying
right.
learning to standardize for calorie intake can be incredibly important.
Yep. And with that, I've learned what foods as well
Uh-huh.
suit my body. I know
Yeah.
things can maybe give me a bit irritation where I can get bloated
Mhm.
and you'll see the weight increase. And that is okay, but you learn from this. If
Yeah.
anybody's listening, learn what works and what doesn't
Mhm.
work.
This is a perfect phase to fail in because this is the phase, this is the learning phase. Your priming phase
hmm
is the learning phase. It's where you get all your information because we don't
Yep.
want, because if you fail in your dieting phase, there's a good chance you might not get back onto your dieting phase. You fail in the
hmm
priming phase, you're like, well, this is a learning experience. All this is designed to make me better.
Yeah, I've got notes in here on my phone with
Yeah.
stuff. keep away from this food, keep away from that food. Drink water. You know what I mean? I know people that have got reminders on their phone to drink water. It
Yeah.
beeps. Drink water. It's Kat's a great example. That's what she does.
Yeah, exactly. And but it's needed. It's needed to get results. Like
Of course it is.
we have to track these sort of things.
Yeah, and for me, I know now that the biggest one, again, touch on this, is my water intake. If my water intake is not great, the scales will go up. Yes,
I
I
feel, sorry,
sorry, carry on.
please
No, no,
continue.
no, 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 you
Yeah.
carry on.
So when it comes to my weight loss, because I'm losing such a big amount of weight, I have a lot of empty fat cells, essentially primed for use. And if my if my water is out and I start bloating up, by God, do I feel like shit.
Yep.
I feel swollen, I feel disgusting, I feel horrible moving about.
Hmm.
And it's because I'm dehydrated. And I go to the gym and I've got the salty lips. I've got that little bit of like loss of energy and power, and that's all because of water. Like being 1% dehydrated can affect you massively. Being 3 to 5% dehydrated is supremely dangerous. I think it's like 7 plus to 10 plus. You are then potentially got a risk of dying.
Yep.
And yeah, drink water. It's
Drink
fucking
water.
just drink water. Like there's nothing else to be added here. Just drink more water. If you
Yeah,
think you're drinking enough, unless you're drinking more than 4 or 5 liters a day, you'll be fine. So this whole sort of like, oh, 1.5's enough. It's not.
it's really not. And guess what else, boys and girls? The more water you drink, the more you pee, the more steps you get and walk into the bathroom.
Exactly, yeah. And more importantly, is the less shit you have to deal with because you're too busy pissing.
That's so
No,
true. So
yeah,
true.
no time for gossip. I can't talk to you right now. I can't deal with your shite because I go to the toilet.
Yeah, but a good example of this for me was last weekend, reffing at England that
Yeah.
it's hard to get water in. You're
Yeah.
drinking when you can. I was averaging probably just shy 3 liters, and it did have
Yeah.
a knock-on effect. But because it wasn't drastically low, I did bounce back from it
Yeah.
pretty quick, and it didn't have a negative impact on the scales.
And the important thing for a lot of people is that do not worry. Like your body will eventually adapt to the increase in water and you will
Hmm.
not pee as often.
Very true.
Yeah, so that's it. Okay, let's move on to the last topic. The last topic is sleep. Sleep could be an entire chat in itself, and it's going to be an entire chat in itself, but I'm going to keep it to the bare basics here. So, what we want to be doing is tracking sleep. We want to be recording when you go to bed, when you wake up, when you get out of bed. Those are three important things because it's going to tell us a lot of information.
Hmm.
Because a lot of people do wake up and then do you spend an hour or two lying in bed dreading about the day. That's something that needs to be addressed. Like, are you someone that's as soon as your eyes are up, you're up and out of bed? Like, we have to find out what type of person you are. And because congratulations, if you're waking up at 6 o'clock in the morning, you're not getting out of bed till 8, then you've lost 2 hours of your day. And that 2 hours of your day, if you're struggling to hit things, there's 2 hours of the day you could probably get back and work to your benefit and stuff like that. But we have to try and standardize your sleep pattern. This is
Hmm.
why we're tracking it because we want to standardize. We want you ideally somewhere between 10 and 11 o'clock to bed and between 6 and 7 in the morning wake up. Consistently getting more than 9 hours can be problematic due to the fact that one, you're losing too much time out the day, but two, that does have its own staple amounts of issues, just like not sleeping enough. The whole sleep when I'm dead sort of rigmarole, I'm glad it's actually dying off. You hear less people talk about it because sleep is one of the most important things. And see, if you don't sleep, you'll be dead a lot quicker.
Yep.
You will be dead a lot quicker. So, first thing, we standardize sleep. So, how do we do this, generally speaking? Try and make sure we're going to bed roughly at the same time every single night, give or take half an hour on average.
Hmm.
What we do at that point is when it comes to the mornings, and I'm not a tyrant in this situation, and I understand on the weekends or on your days off you want to lie in, that's fine. So, what we do is we set your morning wake up time, 6:30 for argument's sake. Then, when it comes to weekends, 7:30, an extra hour in bed. You don't need to be spending your entire day lying in bed because I think you're losing valuable time that could be better used helping other parts of your life get better and being happier in other areas. So what we do at that point, so we try and standardize and regulate our sleeping patterns, and then we stick to them. You stick to them every single day. Try not to let them try not to let them fluctuate too much. Now, reason why we're trying to aim between 10 and 11 o'clock at night is that's where we've got the highest release of melatonin into our bodies, roughly around that time, and we get better sleep cycles around about that time. Go to bed after midnight, and you tend to find that sleep quality starts to drop off. So when we've done this and we're getting a regular thing, what we need to do is build a sleep schedule. We worked with this with Chris. It done really well for him. Here, Trish, because what we're looking at this point is trying to roughly, and that routine lasts half an hour before you go to bed. Because what we want to be doing is you going up to bed, your head hitting the pillow, and then you being out cold. One thing I'm very good at, and it's because I have a reasonably good sleep routine, is that as soon as my bed hits the pillow, 3, 4 minutes later, I'm usually out cold and that's how we go with it. So our sleep routine tends to build, and we will talk through this, but sleep routine, generally speaking, is ditching electronics at a certain period of time. I like to read, a hot shower before you go to bed or something like that, or a hot bath before you go to bed, or cold shower if it's incredibly warm. All these little things that we're doing to try and maximize our ability to sleep better, and then like improving our room ambience for sleeping. So blackout curtains, making sure it's cool enough and not too warm, etc. And then we go and stuff like that. So um, make sure there is a bit of free flow fresh air, because I do think that helps you sleep better rather than cold stuffy air. Like I like to air my bedroom during the day, so I've got nice fresh air in there. But I wouldn't do that during the summer months because of the build-up of pollen. I try and leave that maybe till later on in the day and stuff like that. So there's little things you take into equation and stuff like that in this point to try and make it better for you. But improving sleep and getting your sleep tied away will honestly, just that by itself will make your life 100 times better. Anything you like that?
Not just that I've learned a lot about this from you, the sleep
Mhm.
side of things. And it was one thing I was struggling with at the start. Like I could go to bed, but I would sleep maybe 10 till midnight, 10 till 1 a.m. You're awake
Mhm.
maybe 2, 3 hours, and then you're sleeping again for a couple of hours.
Yeah.
What did we change? Ditching electronics, great.
Uh-huh.
Window open at night, a nice ambient temperature, as you
Yeah.
said, and trying to get to bed at a decent time as well.
Yeah. Hmm.
See, once that schedule's nailed, for me, it's it's 10 p.m. to 6 a.m.
Yeah.
Sunday to Thursday, and then
Uh-huh.
Friday, Saturday, it's 11 till 7. And it's perfect. It works great for me.
Yeah. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, but you need it. Honestly, you need it. Like a lot of people might think it's boring, but it's actually one of your biggest tools,
Hmm.
because sleep's when you recover, sleep's when you get bigger. All your gains happen when you sleep.
Yep.
All your recovery happens when you sleep. Your brain recovers well when you sleep. I'm sure a lot of us will have had sleep and woken up with foggy brain and stuff like that and feel
Yeah.
absolutely cack for it. So,
But but another thing with this as well that links to the dieting, right? Let's say you go to bed 1 a.m. and you're not waking up till 10, 11, right? There's potentially 2 meals skipped in what is
mhm,
your dieting phase. You're then
yeah,
either less on your calories and your water intake, or you're playing catch up during the day and you're eating more and
yeah.
chucking it.
Especially in mass gaining phases.
Hmm.
Like, I know we've spoken a lot about dieting, but see, in mass gaining phases, you need the time to eat.
Yep.
And you do not want to be going to bed with a belly full of food, because that's going to impact your sleep quality. So, like, actually being up early enough to allow you to have a good amount of food so you can wrap up eating at about 7, 8 o'clock at night. So you have enough time to digest, because there's nothing worse than going to bed with a belly full of food. You do not sleep well.
Nah, and everything we spoke about there is everything that we track. It's
Yeah.
everything that you can expect to get from a service from you.
Hmm.
If it's We track all of that.
Yeah, exactly. And we track it because we want you to be better. Like, we want coaching is not just about fixing the in-gym and nutrition stuff. It's about fixing the whole picture.
Hmm.
Yeah. So we will wrap up the podcast there. What I thought was going to be a nice, like 40 minute, like 30, 35, 40 minute podcast might turn into our 50, 55 minute podcast. But it's fine, because I think we've actually covered a lot of good topics here and we opened them up really well. So Thank you very much for listening. As always, please like, subscribe, and comment below. We do read the comments, and I will get back to you. If you've got any questions, you can either reach out in the comments or ping me a message or Chris a message on our social media pages, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. Till then, enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I'll catch you later.
Thank you.